You will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has stressed Algeria's determination to meet all the conditions required for the success of the 7th summit of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, due to be held by February in Algiers. Foreign Affairs Minister Ahmed Attaf and US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken had exchanged views on the latest situation in Gaza, including Algeria's draft resolution to the UN Security Council. UNRWA said that it will run out of funding at the end of February and its operation will come to a halt in March. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The website dedicated to the 7th session of the Summit of Head of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, GCECF, carried a welcome message to the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, in which he underlined Algeria's determination to meet all the conditions required for the success of the 7th Summit of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, which will be hosted at the end of February, especially as the preservation and exploitation of this precious resource is a shared responsibility. Saïd Bouazi has the details.
In his message of welcome, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, emphasized the importance of cooperation and solidarity within the framework of the forum, underlining that the preservation of this precious resource and its exploitation is a shared responsibility which must be based on a mutual understanding of the requirements of balancing interests and sharing benefits. In the same connection, the President of the Republic pointed out that the Algiers session is being held in a context where natural gas is increasingly in demand as a crucial source of energy for socio-economic development, being one of the main alternatives, clean and environmentally friendly sources of energy. This is why we are called upon on the occasion of our meeting in Algiers, said President Tebboune, to deepen reflection and consultation with a view to reaffirming its value as an essential resource for energy transition, meeting the challenges of developing extraction techniques and encouraging investment in research and expansion of exploration fields within the framework of mutually beneficial partnerships between producing and consuming countries on an equal footing. The President of the Republic also expressed his sincere thanks to the Emir of the State of Qatar, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, for his successful chairmanship of the previous session and his efficient management of its requirements, praising the efforts of the Forum Secretary General and all those who contributed to preparing the proceedings of the summit.
The Minister of Energy and Mines, Mr. Mohamed Erkab, said in Algiers that the 7th summit of the gas exporting countries scheduled to take place in Algiers is of vital importance as a platform for the future of the gas industry.
The Summit of Gas Exporting Countries is a major event because it is an important platform to reinforce international partnership and discuss the current challenges in the field of energy. It is a world event in which Algeria will host the heads of state and government, heads of delegations, and key players in this field from around the world.
In a speech delivered at the launch of the Summit website, Mr. Erkab said that the website is a link between the organizers and the participants.
يشكل هذا الموقع الإلكتروني أرضية هامة.
This website is an important platform that constitutes data on this international event. It is a link between the organizers and the participants. It is also a space to inquire about the summit, which allows them to be updated on the latest developments and the challenges in the gas field in the short and long terms.
قريب والبعيد.
For his part, the Secretary-General Mohammed Hamel has said that the holding of the summit in Algeria testifies to its leading role in the field of natural gas, as evidenced, he said, by its pioneering achievements, including the launch of the first LNG plant in 1964, the establishment of the first long-term gas contract in 1969, and the construction of an undersea gas pipeline linking Africa and Europe, and maintaining its position as a reliable supplier of natural gas. Mr. Hamel took the opportunity to express the forum's thanks and gratitude to Algeria for hosting its 7th summit under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, hailing the active participation of Algeria, a founding member of the forum, its commitment and role in the natural gas industry. The Minister of Communication, Mohamed Lagab, has stressed at the Mohamed Boughara University in the province of Boumerdès the need to train the media specializing in gas in view of the role of the vital energy on an international scale and its importance for the national economy and the country as a whole. More details with Jamal Simani.
The minister was speaking at the opening of a training session for journalists who will cover the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, scheduled to take place from the 29th of February to the 2nd of March here in Algiers.
This training session is an opportunity for journalists to be specialized in order to master all aspects of this field. They can also analyze the information and influence the decision makers such as the Energy Ministry. The main objective of the training session is to grant journalists the means and mechanisms in order to fully accomplish their mission.
The training session, which is organized by the Ministry of Communication in coordination with the University of Boumerdès, will continue over 3 days, with nearly 300 journalists from the public and private sectors taking part under the supervision of energy experts and specialists. The program for the training session aims to inform journalists about the Gas Exporting Countries Forum and its relations with other organizations, as well as Algeria's pioneering role in this forum as a major gas producer with a promising future in the field. The training covers a range of topics, including the role of oil and gas in the Algerian economy, global competition for oil and its impact on international relations, and indicators of the importance of natural gas at the geo-economic and political levels.
The Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, General Said Chingriha, now on an official visit to Saudi Arabia as representative of the President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces and Minister of Defense, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, visited the Saudi Air Force Operations Center. As part of his official visit to Saudi Arabia to participate in the 2nd edition of the World Defense Show, General Said Chingriha visited various structures of the Saudi Air Force Operations Center and received detailed explanations on its missions. And now the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has received a telephone call from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Jamal Simani has the details.
The telephone conversation provided an opportunity to exchange views on the latest situation in Gaza. The focus was on the draft resolution submitted by Algeria to the Security Council on the instruction of the President of the Republic with a view to giving binding effects to the International Court of Justice order on the provisional measures to be imposed on the Zionist occupation. In this context, it should be recalled that the main purpose of this draft resolution is to establish a durable ceasefire in Gaza to ensure the protection of civilians and to promote unimpeded access for humanitarian aid. The draft resolution should also reiterate the Security Council's rejection of attempts to forcibly displace Palestinians from their land. The two ministers promised to maintain the necessary contacts between them in the light of developments on the ground and within the Security Council.
And now the Secretary-General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Lounès Maghraman, has received the head of mission of the International Organization for Migration in Algeria. The meeting provided an opportunity to review the root causes of the migration phenomenon in the region and the means to be mobilized to deal with it. And now, on the 124th day of the savage Zionist aggression against the besieged Gaza Strip, the warplanes and artillery of the Israeli occupation army continued pounding the neighborhoods of the towns of Rafah and Khan Younis in the south of Gaza. The death toll from the genocidal aggression against the Gaza Strip has risen to 27,585, most of them women and children. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has responded in a positive spirit to the latest proposal from Qatari, Egyptian and American mediators for a ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas said in a statement that it will still seeking to obtain a comprehensive and complete ceasefire to put an end to the Zionist aggression against the Palestinian people. Speaking at a meeting of the UN Security Council on the threat to international peace and security, Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, Ammar Benjameh, reiterated Algeria's call for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip as a first step towards achieving peace and stability in the Middle East. The head of the United Nations Agency for UNRWA in Lebanon, Dorothy Close, has said that those cancer patients, young students and their families who are among 250,000 Palestinians, 80% of whom are already living below the poverty line, could lose access to vital services in the country by March due to impending budget cuts.
The agency will no longer have funding as of the end of February. So that means our operations would come to a halt during March. This has an impact on the 250,000 Palestinian refugees that we estimate currently residing in Lebanon and that are to the largest extent dependent on UNRWA services. We currently have 40,000 children in our schools and vocational training centers. They have no other place to go. So that means 38,000 children grades 1 to 12 would be unable to continue their schooling.
The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has called on all countries that have suspended their funding for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, without awaiting the result for a United Nations investigation on the matter, to immediately reverse their decision for the good of the millions of Palestinians who rely heavily on the agency's services. The ministry underlined in a statement that it does not find any justification for such priority decisions. UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric has said that the Israeli occupying authorities continue to obstruct the arrival of most aid to the north of the Gaza Strip. At this daily press briefing, Dujarric pointed out that only 10 humanitarian operations has reached northern Gaza out of 61 operations in January.
Despite the enormous challenges, 45 humanitarian partner organizations have carried out various types of health interventions across Gaza, reaching an estimated 1 million people since the onset of the hostilities. Between the 29th of January and the 4th of February, 20 partners provided food assistance within the Gaza Strip and reached about 1.8 million people. For its part, the World Food Programme distributed more than 190,000 food parcels in January, sufficient for about 955,000 people for 10 days, to displace people living in informal camps and host communities in the Gaza Strip. WFP also delivered more than 1,800 metric tons of flour and other inputs to 9 bakeries in Rafah and Deir al-Balah so they can start producing bread at subsidized prices. Approximately 500,000 people, that is 500,000, were reached with bread through this initiative.
Stefan Dujarric pointed out that aid missions to hospitals and health facilities are often prevented, indicating that these missions transport water and hygiene products. According to media reports, the inhabitants of northern Gaza are dying of hunger. And the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, has said in a statement that the areas that the Zionist entity has demanded to be evacuated as a result of its aggression are equivalent to 2/3 of the total area of the Gaza Strip. Said Bourazi has more.
In a statement, OCHA said that the area of the places that the Zionist entity wants to evacuate in the Gaza Strip amounts to 246 square kilometers, or 2/3 of the total area of the besieged enclave, which is approximately 360 square kilometers. The areas that the Zionist entity wants evacuated were occupied by 1.78 million Palestinians before 7th October, or 77% of the population of Gaza, The statement added. On the other hand, OCHA said that any steps taken by the Zionist entity to extend its invasion of Gaza to the town of Rafah in the south of the Palestinian enclave could lead to war crimes. We, as the UN and UN member states, can bear witness to this, OCHA spokesman Jens Lerke told journalists in Geneva. We can clarify what the law says. According to international humanitarian law, indiscriminate bombardment of densely populated areas can constitute war crimes, he argued. This warning came as OCHA reported an increase in strikes by the occupying army in the Rafah governorate on Sunday and Monday. At the same time, thousands of Palestinians continue to stream into Rafah, many of them having fled the intense shelling in Khan Yunis. As a result of this exodus, the spokesman noted the population of Rafah had increased fivefold since the Zionist war broke out in the enclave on 7th October. To be clear, the intensification of hostilities in Rafah in this context could result in large-scale loss of civilian life, and we must do everything in our power to avoid this, said Jens Lerke.
Several civilians were killed and others injured following a Zionist air attack which targeted several points in the city of Homs in central Syria, according to the Syrian news agency Sana. A military source told Sana that the Zionist enemy launched an airstrike from Tripoli aimed at several targets in the city of Homs and its surroundings, adding that the anti-aircraft defences intercepted a number of missiles. And now an explosion in Pakistan killed at least 12 people and wounded 25 near the office of a candidate to the legislative and provincial elections. The explosions took place near the office of an independent candidate in the Bishin district bordering Afghanistan. More than 500,000 members of the security forces were deployed to assure the security of the election across the country. In a reaction to the UN Human Rights Office spokesman Liz Trussell has appealed to the authorities in Pakistan to ensure this week's election is free and fair.
Ahead of Thursday's parliamentary election in Pakistan, we deplore all acts of violence against political parties and candidates and urge the authorities to uphold the fundamental freedoms necessary for an inclusive and meaningful democratic process. In the lead-up to the vote, there have been no less than 24 reported instances in which armed groups have staged attacks against members of political parties. Multiple legal cases have been brought against former Prime Minister Imran Khan, which have disqualified him as a candidate and sentenced him to long prison terms. We expect the higher courts will carefully review these conclusions in line with applicable due process and fair trial rights. All eligible parties must be able to compete fairly.
That's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a special program by my colleague Essia Bekkar. Good afternoon.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome on our waves. We are honored to have in our studio for the second time a university professor, researcher, and translator, Rashida Sadouni. Hello, Rashida.
Hello, Asia. Good morning to everyone who is listening to us. Thank you for the invitation. I am so glad to be here among you for the second time.
Thanks a lot. So the last time we had you with us was for a telecollaboration program that you organized at the level of the languages faculty. But today we have you to talk about something else that means a lot to the Algerian literary and cultural scene. You translated from French to Arabic the book or autobiography of Fadma Ait Mansour Amrouche. The book is entitled L'Histoire de ma vie, the story of my life. So first, tell us why L'Histoire de ma vie, why this book?
I have to tell you that it is the first translation into Arabic. The autobiography was previously translated into English, German, Spanish, and Dutch, but never in Arabic. So when I read it back in 2009, I was just charmed with the writing of Fadma. It was or she wrote her own story. She talked about true events, and that touched me a lot. So I decided to translate it into Arabic, since there was never a translation before that into Arabic. I thought that this translation could be an enrichment for the literature in Arabic, and that's why I decided to go on this project.
Why do you see it as an enrichment?
Because there had never been a translation into Arabic before, and since the book is in French initially, and the readership in Arabic is increasing daily and daily, I thought that I could give a chance to readers in Arabic who cannot read this beautiful story in French.
Yeah, so what makes it beautiful for you?
It's it is the fact that Fatma talked about her personal life without disguisement, as Katib Yassin, the famous Algerian writer, said in the preface of this book. She talked about true events in her life, and then it is a special autobiography because she did not only talked about her own, she talked about 4 generations. She talked about her mother, her own, her children, and her grandchildren. And then also what makes this book special is the fact that Fatma suffered all her life. I mean, even before she was born. She was an illegitimate child, so this had an impact on her her life.
Tell us about the impact it had on her life.
Okay, the most important impact it had on her life was that...
let's say that she lived in the late 19th century.
Yes, indeed.
She was born.
Indeed. Approximately, according to her book or story, she was born in 1882 and she died in 1967, 1 year before the publication of this autobiography. So the most important impact it had on her life was that she was marginalized by her community, the Kabyle community, which was conservative and to which legitimate relationships did not have a room at that time. And then when she converted to Christianity at the age of 16, the great impact was that she found herself divided into between two cultures, the Christian one and the Kabyle one. And this was really hard for her and for her as well, for her children and husband, because whenever she turns, she was not welcomed. You see, when she turns to Kabyle community, they tell her that she was Christian. When she turns to Christians, they tell her you are Kabyle and so on. So
and she was an illegitimate child, which
yes, this was the source.
Yeah.
This was the source of her painful story. This is it.
So you mean that she wanted to find refuge in Christianity from being illegitimate child, something that she had suffered all her life. Then, after converting to Christianity, she didn't find the feeling of belonging that she was looking for.
Indeed, this is what happened. When she was a child, she was mistreated in the Kabyle community, so her mother decided to take her to the White Sisters, les Sœurs Blanches at that time. And then she spent 10 years at the White Sisters house.
With nuns.
Yes, she was educated, she learned French, and this is how she could be instructed in French and could write in French. But then, after these 10 years, she went to work in the hospital. There she met her husband, who was also a Kabyle Christian from Iril Ali, Bijaya. And then when they got married, there started their painful story as a couple who was Kabyle and Christian at the same time. And as we know, at that time, Kabyle Christians were a minority. So obviously they had to overcome many problems, and which led them to immigrate to Tunisia. Also there they couldn't live in peace between two communities, the Muslim one and the Christian one.
Yeah. So what's the point you think Fatma wanted to make by writing her autobiography and sharing it with the world?
Okay, so I have to precise something. When she first wrote this, or her personal story, it was not for the world or for publication. It was meant for her children. And in the book, in the first page, you find two letters, one from her son, the famous Jean Al-Mouhoub Amrouche, asking her to write her diary, her story, her personal story. And the other letter was a reply from Fatma to her son, where she informed him that she could write the story, and the story was not meant for publication because her husband was against the publication of personal matters of the family. But then, when her husband died, Fatma, Jean Al-Mouhoub Amrouche, and Taous Amrouche, who was the daughter of Fatma. She was an
artist as well.
Yes. The three of them decided to publish this story for the public, to share it with the world, so that her story could be as a moral to other people. And she decided, or she urged her children not to change a word from the story. For instance, the proper nouns or the true places. But then in 1962, Jean Al-Mouhoub Amrouche died, and then the mission of the publication was given to Taous Amrouche, who indeed published the story, but 1 year after the death of Fatma, which occurred in 1967, as I said previously. Thank you
so much, Rachida Sadouni, for being my guest today and for sharing with us your passion for the story of the inspirational woman Fatma Et Mansour Amrouche. Let's recall that you are a university professor, researcher and translator.
Tous les villageois, les fous et les sages se faisaient la joie de ternir ces pages, même les filles et les garçons